Hi, my name is Jennifer Huey, and I decided to focus my research on sleep for the adult body. Until the 1950s, most people thought of sleep as a passive, dormant part of our daily lives. But now we know that our brains are actually very active while we sleep. Sleep affects our daily functioning and our physical and mental health in many ways that we are just beginning to understand now. So, to start off this presentation, I would like to go over my agenda. So, I will be giving the definition of sleep, then we will be going over sleep needed for adults, the effects of sleep deprivation, short-term consequences due to deprivation, how we can sleep better, and then I'll show you a list of my works cited. So what is sleep? Sleep is a highly active process during which the day's events are processed and energy is restored. Another way to think of this is as a condition in which the nervous system is relatively inactive, eyes are closed, muscles are relaxed, and our consciousness is suspended. Experts today don't fully understand why our bodies need to sleep. There's not one agreed upon definition or reason why our bodies need to sleep, but there are many theories. So first off, what we do know is true is that sleep is an anabolic process, and this is also known as a building process, where our muscle tissue is rebuilt and restored. And then we also know that growth hormones are secreted while we sleep. This hormone is important for growth in children, but it's also important throughout adulthood in rebuilding tissues. How much sleep do adults need? Well, sleeping needs are very individual. As in, you're in college and you have a lot of friends when they need to study for a test or they have a huge exam the next day, they pull an all-nighter and then they're perfectly functional the next day until about mid-afternoon when they finally crash and have to fall asleep. Whereas you, on the other hand, might be a person who needs to get their minimum 7 or 8 hours of sleep in order to not fall asleep during the next day. So as we can see, sleep needs are highly individualized, and experts like to say that you have basal sleep needs and then you have sleep debts. So basal sleep needs means the amount of sleep our bodies need on a regular basis for optimal performance, whereas sleep debts are the accumulated sleep that is lost to poor sleeping habits, sickness, or even awaking in the middle of the night for various reasons. So there are 2 studies that suggest that healthy adults could get their basal sleep on any single night or a few nights in a row, but they'll still have this unresolved sleep debt that might make them feel more sleepy and less alert at times. And this might run in conjunction with their circadian dips, which are those times in our 24-hour cycle when we're biologically programmed to be more sleepy and less alert. And that might be at times such as overnight or even in the mid-afternoon. So most adults actually need 7 to 8 hours of sleep to get by. And people who are 65 years or older, their bodies actually produce less sleep-related hormones and chemicals than when they were a young adult. And this really points out why you see or hear about a lot of adults who are this age or older who have sleeping disorders or insomnia. Their bodies don't function the same way they used to, and this is related to their hormones and chemicals. We see that infants actually require about 16 hours a day, and teenagers only need about 9 hours on average. For most adults, 7 to 8 hours a night appears to be the best amount of sleep, although some people might only need as few as 5 or even up to 10 hours a day. It really just depends on the person. I've read many reports by experts, and one says that if you feel drowsy during the day, even during boring activities, that means you haven't had enough sleep. So if you're routinely falling asleep within 5 minutes of lying down, you probably have severe sleep deprivation or possibly even a sleeping disorder. So that leads me to believe I must have some sort of sleeping disorder, because the minute my head hits the pillow, 2 minutes later, I am out and I am in a deep sleep. It takes a lot to wake me up. So maybe I'm not getting enough sleep every night, and this is something I should really look into and try to trace. So speaking of sleep deprivation, now we'll look at the effects due to sleep deprivation. First, you have your increased risk of drowsy driving. Then we have an increase in body mass index. So this means that you could have a greater likelihood of actually being obese due to increased appetite caused by sleep deprivation. I don't think many people think about that, but your weight is correlated to how much you sleep. You have an increased risk of diabetes and heart problems if you don't sleep enough, an increased risk for psychiatric conditions, including depression and substance abuse, and it decreases your ability to pay attention or react to signals or remember new information. Sometimes, if you're awake for too long, sometimes over 24 or 48 hours, it can cause you to create false memories, which is kind of scary in my opinion. Here are your short-term consequences. So it could immediately impair your judgment. We all know what that feels like. It could change your mood. It will affect your ability to learn and retain information, and it may increase the risk of serious accidents and injury. According to the National Highway Patrol, driver fatigue is responsible for an estimated 100,000 motor vehicle accidents and 1,500 deaths each year. That's something to think about when you feel tired. Don't get on the road. So this is how to sleep better. First, you have to make sleep a priority. Go to bed on time. Go to bed and get up at the same time every day, even on the weekends. Don't take naps longer than 20 minutes. Don't read, snack, or watch TV in bed. Use your bedroom just for sleep and other rooms for other activities. Then, you always want to avoid caffeine about 8 hours before bedtime. I mean, me personally, I need to do it like 2-3 hours before bedtime, but I know many adults that can't have coffee after noon. Then you want to avoid nicotine and alcohol in the evening, and although alcohol might help you fall asleep initially, it will probably make you wake up during the middle of the night. You don't want to lie in bed for a long time if you're trying to go to sleep. After about 30 minutes of trying to sleep, you have to get up and go do something quiet for a while in different rooms, such as reading or listening to very quiet music. Then you should try to fall asleep again in bed. Lastly, you need to exercise a little every day. Exercise helps many older adults fall asleep better and stay asleep. Well, thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned something new. Have a great summer. Thanks. Bye.